And now, for your listening pleasure, here's Pulizzi and Rose, covering the week of media, marketing, and digital content news. This Old Marketing. Take it away, boys.
Hello, my friends. This is Robert Rose, and welcome to episode number 313 of This Old Marketing for March 3rd, 2022. And with me, as always, my friend, my colleague, a guy who's back from vacation and is definitely disappointed that baseball's opening day is canceled, Mr. Joe Pulizzi. How are you? Welcome home.
Oh, well, thank you so much. As I told you, I would have spent way more weeks in the Bahamas and
yes, wouldn't we all?
Weather. Yes, it was. Yeah. Thank you. I saw some comments on our Web3 special episode. It seemed to
people dug it.
Do pretty well.
I think people mostly dug it. Yeah.
Maybe we shouldn't do the news anymore. Maybe we should just comment on weird stuff that we think is somewhat interesting. Which I guess we did. That is the show.
That's kind of what we do. Yeah.
We couch it around real news. We couch it around real news, but really, it's just a platform for us to get our crazy thoughts to our wonderful audience. How have you? Yeah, what was your 2 weeks like? Was it like crazy? Well, you were like pining to talk over a microphone? Was it? Did you miss it?
I did. First of all, I mean, other than the obvious, which we'll talk about here in a moment, which is of course, sort of like eclipsing all other news.
Yes, exactly.
But generally speaking, yeah, I did miss it, and it was. But the week was good. The week and a half was good that you were gone. I got a lot of work done. That's for sure.
Much more productive when I'm not bothering you,
right?
For the entire week.
Yeah, and some new things developing. That we'll talk about here in a couple of weeks that I've been promising for some time now, and finally getting ready to sort of evolve.
Well, I'm very excited about. But the stuff.
Yeah,
that
you know a little bit about it, right?
I'm very much looking forward to it. But just back onto your baseball point.
Yes,
as you know, I grew up a baseball fan. It was always.
I know. I was thinking about you when I saw that hit the news.
It's always been my number one sport until very recently, which I've really become more of a football first. It's really it's swapped, and this was the year that. For the first time since 1914, I believe, that the Cleveland baseball franchise has a new name, moving from the Cleveland Indians to the Cleveland Guardians. But yet there's nothing to guard because there's no game being played. This is a problem for baseball because it's already losing popularity with mostly kids. Yeah. So, I mean, football and basketball and soccer and gaming, esports. They're taking over. I don't think baseball can afford to get into these money battles and squabbles. Right. And I think it's
slowing down an already slow sport is not. I mean, here's the thing. The thing you got to love about baseball is the marathon that it is. Right. The length of the season, as well as the number of games played, and it was always going to be something that, you never can spend. The thing with football is it's 17 games and 3 months basically,
and one game. Every game is important. One game is important. That's right. One game in baseball won't kill you.
Doesn't matter, right? So it's always going to be the kind of thing where like I've said this before to you, is that I follow baseball kind of like I follow some TV shows, right? I read about it in the newspaper, and I follow. My team is the Dodgers here. That I grew up in Texas and had Texas teams, of course, but I became a Dodgers fan, quote unquote. But I don't watch the games, right? I follow the box scores, and and then it gets to playoffs time, and if they're there, I'll watch, right? But this kind of thing, slowing things down and canceling games, it doesn't help anybody. It doesn't help the owners. It doesn't help the players. It doesn't help the game. It doesn't help the television. It doesn't help anybody.
Well, if you look at, baseball, the big problem is you have so little of that time is actually gameplay time, right? It's like, I'll throw a pitch. That just took a second. and now
Right.
I got to wait 20 seconds, maybe longer, for another pitch. It's so drawn out. It's very difficult. Look at the way that soccer has increased in popularity. They go straight 45 minutes. They do halftime and go another 45 minutes. It's great.
Yeah.
I mean,
right.
that's the way that it should be. Football is, for the most part, they're playing. And with that clock moving the way it is, you've got lots of moving parts, lots of things happening. Gaming, esports, same way. You've always got something going on. If you watch anybody stream, if you watch esports, kind of like if you're watching Valorant and two teams play each other, there's a lot going on. They take like a 2-minute break, break in between, and then they go and go and go. So, and then you have baseball, where it's probably best if you're going with friends to the game and you have discussions about other things.
Sure. Yeah, it's where you go
together.
You go sit for 3 hours and you have a nice chat and you eat a hot dog and you drink a couple of beers and yes, there's also a game going.
And it's a beautiful evening. Yeah, it's great to be outside. Maybe we'll catch a foul ball, whatever. It's all good. But
yeah,
it's tough. Both my kids growing up were very tough for them to sit through a game.
Yeah.
Unless we just bought them barrages of chicken tenders and French fries, which is what we did. And it worked incredibly well, by the way. So, and yeah.
That's all I really need. That's all I really need. I mean,
yeah, so I mean,
give me some chicken tenders and some French fries and I'm
exactly.
I'm
That's
good.
all anyone needs. No, by the way, have you seen McDonald's new perfect bundle value meal? You got to check this out.
I have not seen this.
It's this. Oh my God! It's so last night. It's late. My wife and I are hungry, and our go-to spot is Taco Bell. Always Taco Bell. It's like, but for some reason, we both said I really could go for a Big Mac, because sometimes you got to have a Big Mac. So we roll through, and we're gonna each get like a Big Mac combo or whatever. Well, I saw the most beautiful thing in the world. It was this perfect bundle package. And I stopped and I said, no, we're not going to order what we were going to order. We're going to order this perfect bundle. 2 Big Macs, 4 fries, 2 cheeseburgers, and 10-piece chicken tenders for $17.
Wait, say that again?
2 Big Macs,
Yeah.
4 small fries,
Yeah.
2 cheeseburgers.
So it's a family. You're supposed to feed a family of 5
No, it's not for a family. It's the perfect bundle, which it could be just for me, which it ended up being. But that's not.
Oh, no.
I didn't eat it all at once, but I'm just saying that is a great deal. Like, just add up the component. If you had to buy all that separately, it would be $3,700.
Oh my God!
But if all together in the perfect bundle, which it came in a miraculous little package as well. Compostable package, I want to say. Environmentally friendly here.
I'm sure.
$16
A miraculous package is what I heard you say.
$16.99 for all that, and it was glorious. It was because I just had it for lunch too. I had a Big Mac last night, and then I had half the chicken nuggets and the cheeseburger for lunch.
On behalf of the entire This Old Marketing audience, that's nasty. That's just nasty. That's just nasty.
By nasty, you mean incredibly amazing? Like, what are you talking about? It was great. I don't know why I just thought of that.
My stomach hurts just even thinking about that.
Oh, I'm not on any diet at this point, as you can tell.
Clearly.
But
that's clearly the case.
Well, but, if you're on a diet, all you do is you get the Big Mac and you take out the middle piece of bread. That's really a diet. That's really cutting the calories out. Anyways, so well, hey, before we get to the show, can I talk a little bit about Creator Economy
you should.
Expo?
Yeah, you got a deadline coming up here, a big deadline.
So today we're recording this. It's Thursday, 3/3, which is really weird with the threes.
3/3/3/13.
Episode 313 on 3/3. So there's something amazing is going
something
to happen.
Amazing is about to happen in this show. That's correct.
So tomorrow, Friday, 3/4, is early bird deadline for Creator Economy Expo, and I want all of our This Old Marketing listeners to attend if you're at all involved in creating content, which I know most of you are. This is really bent to business owners and content creators who want to become content entrepreneurs. Obviously, you are involved in this Robert. I'm so thankful for that. You'll be moderating a couple sessions. We've got an incredible lineup of speakers. I don't know. Did you have a chance to look at all the speakers we have?
I have. Well, and honestly, one of the things that I'm so excited about is the fact that, they're all, it's all new to me. Right. These are new, wonderfully talented content creators that you've got. It's like, there's a lot of events that give lip service to this stuff and then bring in the usual suspects of speakers. And you did not go this way. You've gone the experts, the people who are actually doing it. So it's cool.
We tried. Yeah, we tried
Aside from that Wally Koval character.
Oh my God, Wally. So see, people don't realize Wally Koval, who's founder of Accidentally Wes Anderson, he worked with us at Content Marketing Institute, and Wally is one of our favorite people on the planet. And years ago,
he's a punk. He's a punk.
Well, a little bit. Yeah, but how can you go? He's a millennial that I like that kind of millennial.
He's a lovely man. I love him to death.
So it was so great because you and I, he had dinner with you and I in New York talking about this concept.
Yeah,
that became AWA, Accidentally Wes Anderson. And if you're not familiar with, so Wally's going to be a keynote talking about his story. They've got well over 1 million followers on Instagram. New York Times best-selling book. Amazing content operations that he's got going on there. So that, yeah, you're right. Everyone that's speaking is a content creator. Like Alicia Ether. I don't know if you know Alicia. She goes by Leash Capiche on TikTok and Twitch. Like, I wouldn't be aware of her unless we did an interview with her for The Tilt, for the newsletter. And I'm like, oh my God, she's amazing. She's got millions of followers all over the place in the gaming space. So I was like, oh, let's get her to speak. And then we've got, Dan Pink, of course, is going to close us out. And Roberto Blake is going to open us up. One of the most incredible YouTubers on the planet. And then 30 others, including you and me.
Yeah.
So we're really
knuckleheads like us. Yeah.
So anyways, long story short, May 2nd, 3rd, 4th. May 2nd is opening reception. 3rd, all keynotes. And we're going to have a great reception that night. Lots of wonderful networking. 4th, breakout sessions around audience building, revenue generation, content operations. And then, of course, we're going to dip our toe into Web3 business models because we must, as we tend to do on this show as well. Again, tomorrow at the end of the day is early bird deadline close. So go to cex.events and register, get your best possible price. And I'll tell you what, I want This Old Marketing listeners to come more than anyone else because we've had this long, wonderful relationship. So if you're interested in coming, you want to go to Phoenix. It's at the Arizona Grand Resort. We're limiting this to just 500 people. If you use the coupon code Pulizzi, if you don't know how to spell my last name, Pulizzi, and then with that code and the early bird deadline by tomorrow, it'll take you down to a $495 rate. So you can get all that for $495. Every hotel room there is a suite. We have families that are coming, they're taking their significant others and their kids. There's a water park there. They're spending 5-7 days there. And for a lot of people, this is their first trip since, before COVID-19.
Yeah.
So, and we're finally seeing, and by the way, we chose Arizona because we could have a lot of this outside, have the doors open, make sure people feel comfortable, all that stuff. So please go to cex.events. I'll be there. Robert will be there. We definitely want to see you in person. I love these types of events because it reminds me back to when we launched Content Marketing World, Robert, and we had just 600 people. And it was like a family, and we got a chance to talk with everybody. And I'm looking forward to this kind of event again, where you can really build some relationships and get to know people and have good conversations and build a network of supporting people that can help you with your, content business and moving forward. So anyways, cex.events, check it out. Would love to see you there. If you have any questions, obviously let me know, but it should be great. We're getting a lot of sponsor support, which is wonderful. So it seems to be all working out because who knew at the beginning of this thing? So
yeah, well, you did, but
I did not expect. If you had asked me 6 months ago, as I told people on the show, I did not expect to launch another event. But
right,
I can't even say anything because my wife just shakes her head and she just thinks I'm the biggest idiot in the world because I can't stop launching things. She's like, "What is wrong with you? Can't you just retire like normal people?" And I'm like, "No, I can't."
Yeah.
So it's cruises and launching events. That's
cruising and launching events.
There you go.
I'll
go on a cruise anytime. and I have to launch stuff. So whatever. So anyways, you sent me a list of 17 articles that we
got a lot to talk about. There's a lot of news. There is a lot of news to talk about. We are going to spend just a skosh of time here, recognizing more than anything else and acknowledging the giant, elephant in the room that has sort of, well, quite literally invaded all of us, which is the Russian and Ukraine situation. We'll talk a little bit about that because it does actually have some relevance to our audience and certainly to the world and what's going on in the world of content and marketing and crypto and all sorts of things. But we'll also move and quickly talk about NFTs in the metaverse. I know that's a huge shock to most of you, but a couple of acquisitions in the last week and launches, specifically by Salesforce, might just start to make things real here, and so we should talk about that. We'll talk a little bit about native advertising and how new ad works from retailers, I should say ad networks from retailers are coming together to reach younger people. And then we'll talk about TikTok, of course, and how it might better be described these days as TED Talk. I totally stole that line from Tom Webster. See that?
Yeah,
see what I did?
Nice.
But Tom Webster did that. That's a Tom.
You got
That's a Tom Webster joke. Yeah, that's a Tom Webster joke. And then if we have time, we'll talk a little bit about LeBron and his moving his barbershop show a little bit. Why? Because, well, it's LeBron, and we got to talk about LeBron. I'm going to rant about who should get credit on advertising campaigns, and then rave a little bit about white guys on podcasts. Which will be an interesting thing.
So
and Joe, you're going to talk about a conversation you had with Michael Stelzner.
Yes, absolutely.
And some of the interesting things going on in the world of Web3 and those kinds of things. So let's get to it. Because we got a lot to get to. And there's going to be a ton of links in the show notes, folks. So just so you know, there's going to be lots and lots of links there if you're interested in finding these things. We'll skip around quite a bit, I'm sure. But we'll start with just acknowledging, of course, that, in case there's no chance at all that you've missed this in the news because it's been everywhere. But of course, Russia has commenced its invasion, and as we record this, is still in the throes of really awful fighting in the streets and in the towns of Ukraine. And we're hearing about it as well. So much to our very great blessing, we have friends and fans of this show in the area who have been tweeting to us, who have been sending us emails, who have been sending us direct messages on LinkedIn about things going on there, about things that are really happening versus what being said is about happening. And there's a couple of things for us to explore, Joe, which is one is the misinformation.
Yes.
There was a Twitter post by the CEO of Yandex, the second largest search engine in Russia, and talking about misinformation, what's going on there about the way that Russian media is positioning their invasion of Ukraine. And maybe, according to an Axios article that we'll link to, maybe this is the tipping point for propaganda and disinformation, because we're actually now starting to see some of the, certainly here in the West, the U.S., media outlets start to put the hammer down a little bit on some of this stuff. And then, we've gotten some things around the idea of, there's a tweet that you sent me actually about one of our friends and family in the Ukraine, or in Ukraine, forgive me for that, talking about crypto and how credit cards in the Ukraine don't really work any longer. So now basically they've switched over to crypto as a main currency. Anyway, lots to sort of comment on there. I don't know where you want to start.
Well, I think just with what you left out, I thought that tweet basically was saying, hey, I can't do anything with banks anymore in Ukraine. And so what do I do? There's no ATMs aren't open. I've got no cash. And basically said, I'm keeping myself and my family alive through Bitcoin and Ethereum. And it's very similar to what happened in, I believe it was 2013 in Cyprus, when The banks turned in Cyprus and said, they basically were in major debt. They were working on a deal with the EU, and they went to the banks and they said, okay, well, banks, I'm sorry, but 50% of all of the money that you have from your customers needs to go to us. We need your money. So basically, if you had a savings account in Cyprus at the time, they would just take your money. So this is a little bit different, but what it shows you is, and by the way, this is happening not just because of Russia, Ukraine. This is happening because of now all the sanctions, all the banks doing what they're doing based on the government regulations. And I guess
it's starting to have, the Russian side is starting to do it as well. They've actually threatened to go all in on crypto.
It's interesting because, again, it's not perfect. It is, in a lot of cases, you might think that it's risky, but the thing with crypto is it's non-sovereign and theoretically can't be manipulated. Whereas every other currency that's run by a sovereign entity in the world can be, if not is, manipulated. And we're seeing it happen right in front of our eyes. So in that case, what do you do? So it's just interesting that it's happening right now in Ukraine where, okay, so that's where you and I have talked about, we don't know the future of Web3. We don't know the future of the token. Where is this going to go? Where are the business models? But we're seeing firsthand, here's a use case for where it comes in handy to be off the grid, if you will, and not within the current centralized financial system. So
right, but on both sides, right?
Yes, absolutely,
which is really interesting.
Absolutely,
it's a fascinating thing to me to watch because you're seeing, the theory seems to be that oligarchs could do this just as easily as some of the sort of more consumer focused people in Ukraine are doing it, and that you could see a rise in crypto value, in the short term, certainly as more sort of currencies get dumped into there. Now, interestingly, I think what you also saw was a lot, so where, one of the things that is fascinating is one that Switzerland actually said, yeah, no, we're not neutral this time. This is not going to go on in our watch. We're actually shutting these bank accounts down. And then also to see Russia get kicked off the SWIFT system, which is incredibly powerful for everything from e-commerce to just moving money back and forth between banks.
That's huge. And then of course this just happened. I just saw it on the news where Germany took one of the Russian billionaires' boats, yachts, just confiscated it. I mean, can you imagine? I mean, it's amazing how this is affecting if you're a billionaire, there's a lot of billionaires in Russia. Can you imagine?
A lot.
I mean, they're taking their boats down to, they're getting as far away as they can because nothing is sacred. I haven't seen anything like this financially happen in my time. Because it's always, when you think about war, as terrible as it is, you sometimes forget that it's the financial sanctions that sometimes hit the hardest.
Sure. Well, and especially these days, right, where because of technology, money moves so freely. And the interesting, this is a genuine question I have. I really don't understand this, which is, you think about what's going on right now, and the next step, of course, and we'll see if it actually happens or not, is for the banks themselves, where all these billionaires have their money, which, are in, U.S. banks, Swiss banks, Hong Kong banks, all over the place, I'm sure. As they start trying to move money around because of sanctions, and they start moving money between, it's not that you can't track that. That's easy enough to find out. And you have somebody like HSBC or wherever the bank go, nope, we're not giving you access to that. Now all of a sudden, this, as has been spelled out in many of the articles I've read on this, that's like, that's sort of the, if billionaires can't access their money in any way, right, move it via SWIFT, but also can't even access it in their own accounts, then that would cause real pressure. Here's the thing. From both the tactical invasion side, which I am not an expert in, I have zero expertise in there, so just to be very, very clear, And then on the money side, on the business side, I just have to imagine that before he went in, before he made this decision, Putin had to have accounted for that, right? I mean, didn't he? I mean, did he? Are we really in a place where this would be a surprise to him on both how difficult it is to actually occupy a country the size of Ukraine or actually, so it's like I have to make the assumption that he's smarter than the average chicken, right? So that he accounted for this, and that, which makes me even more scared to say, if he accounted for all this, what's the end game?
Yes, exactly.
Right?
That's my concern as well, because he would have had to account for this, unless
you would have thought, right?
Again, I'm not an expert at all. Please don't take this as anything, but unless he thought that maybe China would take his side. But China's, I think, smart enough to say, look, we're not going to hurt our financial relationships with the rest of the world in the United States, and they're not going to do that. There's no way. So you've got Russia all by yourself, and of course the ruble just collapsed. So the money is almost worthless there now. And then to your point, Russia has their reserves outside of Russia. They can't access them.
Right.
And you can't get any services outside anyways to buy anything. So you should have seen it coming. I'm sure they've got smart people looking at this. I don't get the whole thing.
That's what just baffles me about this whole thing, because I mean, this was a post that I saw on I think it was Reddit or something, that actually posed this. It's so far out there that you go, huh? It's so far out there it makes you think. Which was the post was basically, the end game here is you invade Ukraine, you purposely fail to get it, you pull everybody back after much death and destruction and awfulness, you pull it back. What happens is Ukraine then gets confidence and says, yay, we're awesome. We beat back the Russian horde, and then say, we're so awesome. In fact, we don't need to be part of NATO. So they don't join NATO. And then basically Russia gets what it wants, which is Ukraine not joining NATO. And you go back to, sort of, and I looked at that and I went, that's some like 69D chess, you know what I mean? But it seems so far out there to be unrealistic to me. I haven't heard anybody give me a rational view of what a smart person would be thinking about what's the end game for Russia here. Because they're clearly not going to occupy Ukraine for years and years, like, we occupied Iraq or, anything like that. I mean, that's just clearly not going to happen. So where does it go? I guess is the point.
I don't know. The only thing that it made me think of is and you and I talked about this on the show, but when President Trump would say something crazy or do something crazy, it always ended up being a distraction technique for something else. Like not a stupid person. He had an idea of what was going on. I'm going to make this crazy move over here because I'm moving my pawn, or I'm moving my knight in a different direction.
Right. And well, here's
100
crazy things, one of which I want to come true, right? In other words, you just pour so much crazy shit on the table that basically everybody's distracted by everything. And so that one crazy thing that you actually want to happen, that you make happen, everybody goes, oh yeah, that's just part of his crazy stuff, right? If you just poured the one thing out, everybody would have freaked out and, and gone nuts. But because you've filled the entire table full of crazy stuff, it's hard to know what to pick.
But so the two things coming out of this for this show would be, one is there's a financial issue that we're seeing play out in front of us, and then the other one that you brought up, which is really important, is this disinformation or no information getting out on certain channels. And again, that's why it plays to, I think, smaller content creators and influencers, because if you have state-run media or biased media run by certain entities that can't or won't show. And by the way, I'm not just talking about Russia. I'm talking about everywhere around the world. As we know, if you look in, there are people showing things and not showing things that they should or shouldn't be. And it's crazy what's going on. And that's where a lot of the trust comes into who's on the ground, who's that person that I trust that's going to give me the right information. And it's so funny how that level of trust has continued to move away from traditional media outlets to smaller players.
Yeah.
And I think that's going to be the case for a long time. I just can't see, because there's so many different levers you're pulling and pushing on in traditional media, and you've got so much politics behind it. I don't think that's going to change anytime soon. So
yeah, I think you're right. I mean, but it is amazing to see how much of this is actually happening. I mean, the other thing that has baffled me is that how anyone could come down on the other side of this, right? But I've actually seen in my Facebook feed from, people that I'm relatively acquainted with from the days gone by, who have said stuff like, Ukraine must be hiding something, right? That Russia would have Putin would have never invaded them if they weren't hiding something. So, we need to wait till everything comes out before we make a judgment on this. It's like, no. That's not the way any of this works. So
I'll tell you what. There's I don't know the name of it. I'll have to find it. Maybe I'll put it in the show notes. But there is an amazing documentary. Of course, I love documentaries. It's on Netflix. Maybe you remember the name of it. It was on the Russian doping scandal when they had the Winter Olympics. What was it, like 10 or 12 years ago? Something like that. The elaborate things that they did and went through so that they could swap out blood samples was incredible. They go through the whole process and they show the secret doors and how they'd make the switch and whatever.
It's called Icarus.
Icarus, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Did you see it by chance?
Yeah. No, I didn't.
Oh.
I didn't see it.
Yeah, it's fascinating so that you understand what certain people. I mean, this is what somebody like Putin does. So it doesn't surprise me. So
well, for all of you out there that are in and or near the area, know that we're thinking about you. Know that we're feeling for you, and there's I don't know that there's much we can do. I mean, there are some things we can do about, certainly spreading the word, but we are thinking about you very, very much. I'm not going to say the stupid hearts and prayers thing. That's just dumb. But we're very much sending you all the love that we have and thinking about you very much.
This is over as quickly as possible.
Absolutely. All right, moving on now to our next story, which is actually a little more akin to what we normally talk about here, which is about NFTs, the metaverse, and it's really starting to actually, interestingly, take some shape here. So 2 stories that we'll cover in the show notes. One from TechCrunch that just fascinated me. Which is Epic Games. So the big gaming company, Epic Games. They make Fortnite. They make a number of things. Just bought an entire Bandcamp, and it's not even Friday, says the headline. Happy Bandcamp Wednesday, says Fortnite maker Epic Games. They're treating themselves to an entire Bandcamp. The music download site Bandcamp announced the acquisition in a blog post today, adding that it will continue to function as a standalone entity with co-founder CEO Ethan Diamond at its helm. We share a vision of building the most open, artist-friendly ecosystem in the world, and together we'll be able to create even more opportunities for artists to be compensated fairly for their work, Diamond wrote in the post. The relatively business-as-usual approach includes the continued operation of Bandcamp's marketplace, the community, the editorial product, the daily as a standalone entity. So they are a media company, after all. And that's the interesting thing here, which is... So the article actually goes on and says... basically that it's a strange, odd, weird acquisition, and I actually think,
I want to hear your take. Go ahead.
A totally perfect acquisition. We're going to pair this, by the way. I'm going to come back and talk about my feelings on the Bandcamp acquisition, but we are going to pair this with another story that comes to us courtesy of martech.org, which talks about the idea that Salesforce, the B2B company, of course, giant B2B company, who just had a crushing quarter, by the way, just absolutely crushed it, basically announced that they are going to launch an NFT cloud service for marketers. And there's been some interesting sort of pushback there from the employees about NFTs and environmental issues and stuff like that. And we'll talk about that in a moment. But back to the Bandcamp thing. The reason that this is so cool is, so remember Fortnite. So Fortnite 2 or 3 years ago was, you downloaded it and you went and you played it because you could shoot your friend in the face, right? But now Fortnite is actually more of a concert venue than anything else. I mean, artists like Ariana Grande, a whole bunch of artists have done virtual concerts in Fortnite, very successfully, by the way. So this to me is such a perfect acquisition for Epic Games to start to bring music from lower, sort of lower unknown and as yet unpopular necessarily artists into a true metaverse, which is their Fortnite sort of world, open world, and start making different ways of listening and accessing and buying music available through the Fortnite metaverse. And those two things together make for a very, very interesting new offering from Epic Games, which is now not only getting into the game business, but clearly getting into the music business as well. So a fascinating. That's why
I didn't see that connection there, but I can now. You know more about how they're using Fortnite in that way. I did not see that. I looked at it more for Epic Games is all about looking for the opportunities in the creator economy, and this is obviously one in music. And I consider them that they will go after more of these types of sites, not just music, but every kind of creation.
Yeah. Well, they basically late last year they started this. They have a whole music series, right? They called it their Soundwave series, which is all sorts of shows, really, is the best way to put it, featuring artists from around the world, and you can experience these artists in the within the Fortnite game, like within the So you go to an island. One of the islands is a non-competitive, non-fight island, and you can go watch these performances, right? So you can do you can see Travis Scott, Ariana Grande, but basically now they're giving this sort of this creative mode, if you will, to build like little worlds in there where you can actually go have an entire music festival, right? Where you can go see a bunch of music and see the artists and hear the music and buy the music within the whole thing. It creates an entire experience, which is coming now. If you're Epic, what do you need? Well, we need content, right? We need the music, because we can go, because think about the Netflix challenge, right? So Netflix started out by licensing all of this music to say, hey, we're going to license all this music, license these movies and show the movies. But what did they do? They got into the original music business or the movie business. Here's Epic doing the exact same thing, building an experience where they were licensing music, I'm sure, from the big stars, and will continue to do that for some time. But now they can develop original music from unknown artists through Bandcamp and basically feature this new music in a new way and basically create original programming.
It's an interesting concept. I think you're going to see I'm pretty sure they have a lot more cash that they can spend.
Oh God,
yes. I think you're going to see much more of that happen. I think the Salesforce, the Mashable Salesforce title here says even Salesforce's own employees think its NFT plans are dumb. I thought that was a great headline.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you agree with that? What do you think about the Salesforce thing?
I think they announced it too early. I think this is a press release that got out ahead of itself.
Yes.
Exactly. They're trying to catch a little bit of newsjacking here, especially coming on the heels of their amazing earnings report. I think they got out ahead of themselves here, and because of course this is an area they should be exploring. Of course it's an area, right, that they should be looking at and building and thinking about building products for. And I think they just the the effort to publicize it and market it got out ahead of itself. So yeah, I mean, it's not terribly difficult for them to do. I mean, they have the infrastructure to do it. They could literally go out and buy somebody tomorrow, and that's probably what's going to happen here. Is that we're going to see that Salesforce buy somebody, and by the way, they could. I'm not sure of the financials here, but could Salesforce swallow up OpenSea? Probably. Yeah, probably.
Yes, that's a good possibility. But to your point, why go out and say that there's a report of Salesforce's NFT service coming? Like, why even do that? You're right. They were just trying to jump on this Web3 optimism, which in a lot of cases is not optimism right now. There's a lot of suspect and.
Well, that's the thing, right? It's like, why, it's that whole, what's that classic? I think it's an Abraham Lincoln attributed quote that basically says, or Mark Twain, I forget. It's like, you can shut up and let the world think you're a fool, or you can open your mouth and prove it. And this is kind of that, right? Which is there was no reason for them to make this announcement public
unless they have it.
Now they didn't really do it publicly. This was clearly an open call to employees. Like, this wasn't a huge press release out to the public or anything. This was a call to that got leaked, of course. But then without really thinking it through about what the pushback is. I mean, this is the classic thing I talk to clients about all the time, which is you have to think about the implications of the whole story, right? In other words, when you think about the point of view or the story that you're going to put out into the world, you have to think about what are the implications? What are you going to, what is going to be your message for those who push back on the story? And you have to think it through, and they just clearly didn't.
Well, if you look at the internal letter that went out, which was imploring Salesforce executives not to do this NFT thing, came from, it says, the internal letter, which over 400 employees have signed, says the amounts of scams and fraud in the NFT space is overwhelming. We implore you to reconsider. Now, great. I agree. You and I are on the same page with them not coming out with, we might do something. And then, of course, it wasn't formal, but don't say anything unless you're actually ready to launch something. But that said, the exact thing in this letter that employees have signed, the amount of scams and fraud in the NFT space is overwhelming. That's a reason why Salesforce should be involved.
Exactly.
Because they can bring credibility to it. What's happened over the past 2 years with crypto? You've had every major financial institution in the world get involved in crypto now, which has legitimized it. That's why you saw 72 Super Bowl commercials around it. Because everyone sees it as, it's okay now. All the big players are involved. Everybody's trying to get their money now, right? So it was, it's okay. Well, in the NFT space, it's not there yet. This is still Wild West, if you want to call it that. And so somebody like a Salesforce coming in, and I guess I don't know what an NFT service, cloud service means. Like, nobody knows what that is. But I think if you understand what an NFT is, the underlying smart contract, the digital asset is not on chain. It's too expensive to put it on chain. It's linked off site. So you have all your smart contract and
it's web hosting.
You get your certificate of authenticity, right? Here's what I own. Here's what I get. All this blah, blah, blah.
That's right.
And then there's a link outside to somebody else's AWS, if you will. It says, here's your image.
Yep.
So yes, could that go to a NFT AWS service kind of thing that Salesforce would run? Sure. Does it make sense to have it in the marketing and sales area because brand people in the next 5 years are going to go crazy with this stuff? Absolutely. Makes perfect sense to do this. They didn't have to talk about it yet. So I like the idea. Right. Salesforce should absolutely do it.
And it's such a great point that you just made, because when and if the messaging comes out, the messaging could and should be, arguably, depending on timing, and of course this is just all hypothesis at this point. The message, just to your point, could have been, the world needs a trusted provider of this,
scam-free NFT.
Exactly, and just as they lived up to their sort of disruptive trust that they created in software as a service in 2000, they could create a level of brand trust in NFTs in the cloud in 2022. But it's just the message got ahead of itself.
Yeah, exactly. And OpenSea, by the way, as the largest marketplace for this thing, I mean, it is under a lot of scrutiny right now. They're growing so fast. There are bugs, as with any growing company.
Yeah, bugs.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. People losing, big bugs.
Well, I mean, it gets out in the news, and you figure out, okay, what happened? Was it a phishing thing? Was it an OpenSea thing? There's a lawsuit going on, all kinds of stuff, right? Yeah, so that's where I think the employee letter is funny, saying we don't want you to consider because there's so much opportunity in this space. That's exactly what they're saying. Like, what?
Yeah.
Well, thank God you employees aren't taking over our global strategy, because wherever there's chaos is opportunity. So whatever.
Oh, that's exactly right.
So yes, of course, we're going to stick with the horse and buggy. I think that'll work just fine. So let's not innovate.
Yeah. Much more to come on this, for sure, on both sides. So just very, very interesting on both sides of this coin, as it were. See what I did there? On
nice.
This coin.
Yes.
Yeah, there we go. All right, let's cover one more story before we get to rants and raves here, which we're going to skip one and go right to the TikTok stuff because it's fascinating. So if you didn't see the news, folks, TikTok, for not everybody, not yet everybody, but for some people, has now bumped up the video length to 10 minutes. This coming courtesy of the Morning Brew that put out the article and basically says that TikTokers have become very popular for hyper short pieces like 30 seconds, 90 seconds. And now they will be able to do things that are 10 minutes long. And the animated GIF meme that they put as the header here is Tom Hanks going, "Oh my God, we're going to be here till 10 o'clock at night," being, yes, now TikTok is going to basically consume our lives. We're going to pair this, by the way, because it's totally related, with a breaking, really, news story, which just happened yesterday, actually. This coming courtesy of CNET. TikTok announces it's got TikTok Live, and it will feature now a new hour-long sketch comedy show called Staple View. The stars of the upcoming weekly show include Gray Fagan and Grace Ryder, who have 7 million followers between them, and that TikTok has assembled this cast of TikTokers to star in fully produced sketch comedy show on TikTok Live called Staple View. The show will premiere Thursday, meaning today as we record this, on a dedicated channel on TikTok Live, according to a report from Deadline. The show will be created and executive produced by Sam Gray, who is the executive producer of the war comedy drama Whiskey Tango Foxtrot, perfect for sketch comedy, I guess, and comedy brother Nature. It is described as a modern take on sketch comedy and variety show formats, featuring a collection of popular individual content creators, which is about the most PR press releasey thing I've seen in a long time. So what say you about the 10 minutes and about the new sort of expansion of content here to an hour-long series on TikTok? When anybody going to watch an hour-long series on TikTok?
Yes, absolutely. Because TikTok is not just a short-form social media platform anymore. TikTok is a fully functional, multidisciplinary media company. They will get into everything. If you want my prediction on it, says TikTok bumps up max video length to 10 minutes. That will be infinity. They will bump it up to whatever. It's going to be whatever. Good content can be as long as it needs to be or as short as it needs to be. Doesn't matter. And TikTok has the platform for this. They have the audience, and they will offer that just like YouTube is any length. You could see a 15-second, 10-second thing on YouTube, or you could see a 5-hour docudrama on YouTube. There's no difference. People will watch it they have their own preferences set up, and TikTok knows its audience probably better than anyone else in the world, and they will figure out how to serve the right content to the right people because nobody gets their algorithm, but it's amazing. So that's my take.
It is amazing.
The only thing TikTok that really I can't figure out yet and what their play is, their creator pay is so much lower than somebody like a YouTube. They, of course, could just bring that up, but because their findability is so much better than YouTube and their discoverability, they're able to share less of that because creators want to be found more than anything else. So it's interesting that they can get away with that because they're so good.
It's quite amazing to me. Yeah, it's quite amazing to me. Do you find yourself so I've obviously been watching some TikTok here and there, and and sort of killing some time with it and all of that kind of thing. The conversation that you end up having with someone else about TikTok, and it's fascinating to me that inevitably your conversation turns to, what's in your TikTok feed, right? And it tells you about the person's personality. I was just listening to the Pivot podcast where Kara Swisher and Scott Galloway were having this exact conversation where she was like, "Whoa, what's in your TikTok?" And he's like, "Well, I get dog videos, and then I get people talking about," as he put it, people talking about social justice who aren't wearing a bra." So it's like, okay. So it's and Kara then started to tease him a little bit about his taste in content, and she said, I get like home improvement videos and also sort of videos about LGBTQ issues, and like my TikTok right now anyway seems to be all about these sort of stopping people in the middle of the street with the cops, and they're sort of, asserting their rights to not give them their ID. For whatever reason, I get tons of that. And of course, dog videos. It just, the algorithm is so good in terms of keeping you engaged that it really starts to tell you a little bit about your personality as you start using it. It's like, it's a fascinating thing.
It's the one service that I haven't opened yet. I'm not on TikTok.
You should be scared. You really should be, because it's a time suck. It will.
Well, what's
pull
interesting? So I'll tell you
in.
what's happened. So I'm friends. All my friends we're all golfers. I have this group, and we have this texting group. So we're all sending texts to each other. We go on a golf trip with each other. Whatever. We're generally between the ages of 45 and 55. And when this group started 10 years ago, and there's texting, of course, it started out links to articles. And then it went to like Facebook videos and YouTube videos. And now so there's a random tweet here and there, but almost everyone's a TikTok video that I'm getting now. It's just interesting to see that.
Oh, it's absolutely a shift.
But like people, but Gen Z's not getting upset because, everyone else is taking over TikTok too. It's different because you each get your own personal feed, right?
That's right. Yeah, you get your feed, right? What you see is for you. It's a fascinating thing. Like my wife's is completely different. Like her TikTok, like she tells me about all these TikTok videos that she's seeing, and she's like, "Have you seen this one?" I'm like, "No, I don't even know what that is." She's like, "Wow, that seems like it's really popular." And I'm like, "No, it's popular for you. It's not popular for," and it's a very genius thing.
It's amazing what they've been able to do. So, anyways, yes, I think that TikTok is doing all the right things, and they're taking advantage of the popularity that they have right now. And nobody seems to care that it's a Chinese company in the United States, and nobody seems to care that they don't pay creators much of anything right now. So
prediction in the next 6 months, we start talking about that more.
Oh,
we start
creator
talking
pay
about
or
the
Chinese?
data, the access, the privacy, and TikTok and the Chinese thing. It's going to come up. It's definitely going to come up.
Well, whether it'll do something or not, I don't know.
No, I don't know either, but we will talk about it. That's my prediction.
Well, I don't know. It seems like we've passed the point of no return with privacy.
Oh, I don't know about that. I think that stuff's coming. I think we would be talking a lot more about it.
But we already have
for Ukraine.
We already have a
GPS
device on us at all times that any company can locate where we are. They have that data.
But the fact that it made, I don't know if you saw the State of the Union speech, it made the State of the Union speech. Targeted data and targeted advertising to kids made the State of the Union speech. When it makes the State of the Union speech, it's going to be a thing.
That's been talked about for a long time, but nothing.
I know.
Okay.
I know. And maybe I'm just being Pollyanna about it, but I do believe it's
you're Polly or Anna. I don't know if you're both. So.
All right, let's move on, folks, to our rants and raves section so that we stay a little bit on time here and talk about something in the news or something that makes us a little bit into a rant or a little bit into a rave to make us feel like, oh, baseball's starting or baseball's dying or something along that effect. Do you want me to go first?
I'll go first because I want to hear your take on this. I just wanted to give a shout out. We've talked about Mike Stelzner's podcast, Crypto Business. I was able to be a guest on it. The episode released this week, we'll put it in the show notes. It's called Beyond. So it's Crypto Business Podcast. And the title of this episode is Beyond Art, Using NFTs for Access. So basically we talked about, my thinking around non-fungible tokens and the benefits and offerings behind them, much more than the piece of art and as an overpriced JPEG. So we talk about a couple business models. I'd go through the VFriends business model. I go through our Never Ending Ticket business model, why we made certain decisions, what I would do differently when launching these things. So if you're trying to figure out what the long-term business model is for this thing, so I went through it on that podcast, and he's doing a great job with it. So, and seems to be very successful launch with that podcast, and he's had a lot of our friends on it already. So, so just a little shout out there. And I've been listening. I like this.
I have not listened to your episode yet, but I have been. It's next on for my walk. I'm going to listen to it probably today.
Well, I like this episode. I like the way that Michael set it up, because there's too many people out there that think about this overpriced JPEG as an NFT. And we initially go through and say, yes, that's a thing. That was phase one of this thing. Where are we going now? And we talked about what are the different applications right now that we see in front of us, and what's the future of what this is going to be. So, and I think there is a thing. And again, we talked about it. I don't even know if it's going to be called NFTs. It's not. It's going to be something else. We're just going to call it what it is. But it's going to have that technology backbone. So, anyways, we'll see how it goes. But
anyway,
what do you got? You got a whole bunch of stuff.
No, I have two little things there, and I put them together purposely, and it'll totally make sense when you hear sort of the full thing. So my rant, and just heads up, I know this is going to be unpopular. This is I rarely, I think, do this, but I'm pretty sure this is going to be an unpopular opinion, but it's a rant nonetheless. So last week, while you were out, ostensibly, and then it has emerged a little bit again this week. So the CEO of Coinbase took a victory lap on the Super Bowl commercial. And of course, we talked about the Super Bowl commercial, which was ostensibly just a QR code floating around the screen like a DVD screensaver. And basically, he took a victory lap in a Twitter thread. And the Twitter thread, in one of the tweets, basically said they were patting themselves on the back about how genius they were and how wonderful they are and how amazing they do things and all of that. And in one of the tweets in the Twitter thread, which was 10 or 12 tweets long, he said agencies would never do this. And so that created quite a stir because then Kristen Cavallo, who is the CEO at the Martin Agency, then responded on Twitter basically saying, but an agency actually did do that, calling out the fact that they actually hired Accenture Interactive to do the ad, but that it itself, the idea was an idea that had been pitched to him theoretically by their agency as well. And she even pointed to page numbers in their pitch deck where they actually pitched this kind of idea. In her response, she said, look, I'm not trying to take credit for it because I know good ideas come from different people. But basically her point was that she was trying to say, agencies should get credit, right? Agencies should get the credit for this, and you're disparaging agencies and all the wonderful work that they do by not admitting that. And then she clarified that because, of course, she got lots of hurrahs from the agency world for doing that. Although I would note that Accenture Interactive stayed very quiet about it. Then she went on her LinkedIn and posted a more lengthy post, basically saying why she did it. And the post itself got 800 and something comments and went a bit viral. And it's all basically everybody saying, thank you for saying this, because people need to hear this, that agencies need credit and creative ideas need to be credited and blah, blah, blah. So here's my unpopular opinion. I come down on the opposite side of this, and to be, I come with a little bit of the experience here. I've been on the agency side and consulting side of marketing, creative, and digital for 30 plus years now. So I've worked in big consulting firms. I've worked for small agencies. I've worked on my own as a consultant. I've worked, in services and product businesses. I know a little bit about this stuff. There is a mantra that I grew up with anyway. I don't know if it's the same way anymore, but the mantra that we always grew up with when we were in the agency world is the client always gets the credit. Always. End of story. Done. Right? So the fact that Accenture is like not coming up and going, yeah, we came up with this idea is like, tells me something. To me, she's bringing up this, and she has every right to, by the way. She has every right to bring it up and say, hey, by the way, we pitched this to you, and you shouldn't have said that. But it reminds me so much of the fact that, agents, there's a great scene, by the way, in Mad Men where this exact scenario plays out, right? Where Peggy comes into the office and is talking to they're having this conversation, and she says basically, I never get credit, and he says that's what the money is for. And so the reason that clients go and pay the money, and the reason that it's usually a work for hire, and the reason that you get the money is because they're the ones who make the decision to actually put their reputation on the line with whatever creative they decide. Right? The agency doesn't lose their reputation if the ad goes sideways. So the client always got the credit, always, to me. Now, having said that, I don't think that Armstrong, who is the CEO of Coinbase, had any. It was ridiculous to take a victory lap on a piece of creative that goes out for a Super Bowl commercial is just redonkulous. You let the work speak for itself. And he did use the word we a lot. So his really only stupidity here was saying that the ad agency would have never done this. That just was unnecessary. But this goes again to this idea of, you can let the world think you're kind of nutty and not say anything, or you can prove it and sort of say it. With this, if I'm Kristen Cavallo, the CEO of Martin Agency, if I'm her marketing person or PR person, I'm going, this gets you nothing other than a bunch of comments from inside baseball people saying you're awesome. Because what clients see in your post is, I'm going to do something to piss you off, and you're going to throw me under the bus, which is not the way you want to position an agency. You never want to talk about the work outside of the, within your own walls, right? The fact that she quoted page numbers of pitch decks and actually called them out specifically on it doesn't do anybody any good. It certainly doesn't do them any good from a client perspective. So I don't buy the whole poor ad agencies don't get enough credit for the work that they do. That's what the money is for. And so the key for me is, yes, Armstrong's an ass for saying agencies wouldn't do this, but just shut up. Nobody asked, right? Nobody asked about this stuff. And I know that's an unpopular opinion because agencies should get credit. But I would just say, okay, who got the credit for the Apple 1984 ad? Right? Who should get the credit for the 1984 ad? One of the best, most recognized ads of all time, right? Who gets the credit for that? Steve Jobs gets the credit for that. And of course, it was Chiat Day, but it wasn't even Chiat Day. It was a freelance copywriter and another guy at Chiat Day who actually did the actual work, who actually came up with the concept. And then it was actually, Ridley Scott who actually shot the thing. And actually, so who should get the credit there? Is it Ridley Scott? Is it the copywriters? And by the way, it was from the original idea was a print ad. So anyway, the point is all of this is that it's that let the work speak for itself and just shut up. I just don't see the controversy here. Now, I'm going to pair that with my rave really quickly here. I'm just going to mention it. My rave, I don't know if you saw Saturday Night Live, but there was a sketch that they didn't air for time, and it was one of these fake commercials. And the fake commercial, it was for the Fisher-Price White Guys podcast set. And it's just brilliant. We'll link it in the show notes, obviously, but you can also just Google it. It's this Fisher-Price, and it's basically white guys on podcasts who will literally let any dumb thing come out of their mouth. And there's a shot of, it's John Mulaney down in his basement with this Fisher-Price podcast set, podcasting.
I love it. It doesn't record anything.
It doesn't record anything. It lets you say even the N-word. It's like, so I'm pairing my rant with this rave because any dumb white guy can say anything on a podcast, and I probably just did. So just take it all into consideration that I'm very self-aware about the actual rant this week. And there you go. That's what I got to say.
It's a 3-minute SNL sketch that's worth.
It's so good. It's
worth
so
watching.
good.
There's a lot of scary truth in that as well. And yeah, I'm aware of it.
Yeah.
Exactly what you said. So, but
yeah,
I'm glad you. Yeah, I didn't know that was. Yeah, I didn't know John Mulaney was back and that he.
He had a whole thing in his intro.
I did watch the intro.
When he talks about his intervention, he's like, when I walked in the door and I saw all my friends, including those on Zoom, I knew right away it was an intervention.
Did he say something? Of course, I gave them.
Nobody gets together for me.
I gave them heck on Zoom because they couldn't be there in person.
Right? Exactly. Yeah.
Am I not important enough? Is my drug problem not important enough for you to be here in person? I thought that was pretty funny. So,
very funny stuff. Very funny stuff. All right, what do you got this week?
Yeah, I mean, CEX closing down sponsorship, so we've got a couple weeks left in that, and we'll be on site in a few weeks checking out, making sure everything's good, and of course another reason to get into the sunshine and away from cold Cleveland weather, although it's getting better. It's supposed to be 60 this week, which will probably happen for 5 minutes, and then that will be it. So what do you got planned this week?
This week I am all about CMI University. I have finished my new curriculum for 2022. Yeah, clocking in at a gorgeous 325 slides. Yep.
Holy crap!
Oh my gosh, it's a
lot of work. Are you sure that's the right number? It's maybe 275.
It's been a lot of work. I actually made it. No, I actually made it 325 on purpose. It was actually 324, and then I just added like an extra summary slide just so that it would be 325. But yeah, it's been a. I'm just going to say it's been a shit ton of work, and but I'm super proud of it. I'm really, really, really proud of it. So I got to record all the videos. I got to record all the videos this weekend and get it ready to rock and roll because it needs to get launched. It's already late. And so, yeah.
Wow, that's a lot of work. That is a lot of work.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good deal.
All right. Well, I'm going to get to that, and you're going to get to closing some deals here, and we're going to sign off until next week. And in the meantime, we, like I said, we'll put all the show notes on the page on our wonderful little website at thisoldmarketing.site. If you haven't been there, get over there. Leave us a review, share it with somebody. We're trying to grow this audience, and if hopefully you like what we're doing over here, and basically two dumb white guys talking into a Fisher-Price podcast set. I might have to get one. I want to try and get one because they're just so great. Anyway, get on over to our thisoldmarketing.site site. Remember the Twitter questions and comments. Hashtag us up on Twitter. We love that. We love the story ideas. Best wishes, warm wishes, love, and safety to all of you in Ukraine out there, and we're hoping that this ends very quickly. Otherwise, until we meet again next week, remember everybody, it is your story to tell. Tell it well. We'll see you next week on This Old Market.